Women Innovators. Interviews with women with big messages and big missions, sharing their stories to inspire you to live your passion and step up to make the world a better place. Here's your host, Tami Patzer.
Hi, this is Tami Patzer, and today's guest is Betsy Rosam. She is a speaker, author, teacher, and counselor whose professional experience includes more than 30 years in education and training with emphasis on psychology, neuroscience, family and consumer sciences, and personal development. Her toolbox includes certifications in emotional freedom technique, Psych-K. She has a Bachelor of Science in vocational home economics education, a Master of Science degree in mental health counseling, and a ministerial license through the Universal Life Church. She is the owner of Total Life Solutions, author of the newly released and highly acclaimed Making More Than Lemonade Out of Lemons, and she's also previously published 30 Days to Family, Peace, and Harmony. She mentors passionately driven, successful women who are committed to giving and getting more in their lives. She guides them through processes that break through limitations they may have, both quickly and easily. Welcome, Betsy.
Hello. Thank you so much, Tami, for having me on this show today. I am so looking forward to sharing with you today.
Great. Well, let's just get started and let me know, who is it you help?
I help women that are successful and they are wanting a little bit more in their life, and they find that there's a ceiling or a block or a limitation that they come against, and I guide them through processes that break through and help them release any limitations that they might have.
So when you're working with these women, can you give me a few examples of maybe some of the problems that you can help people with?
Well, most of the problems, most of our subconscious beliefs are what are causing us a limitation. We have a limiting belief. It was programmed usually in the first 7 years of our life, and most of the time it shows up in a form of self-sabotage. We commit ourselves to doing something, and then we find ourselves backing out or maybe not giving it the full attention that we want. And so what I do is I sit down and have a discussion, and usually intuitively something comes up that's more. And most of my clients that come to me and say, I'm not happy with my relationship or not happy with the results I'm getting in my business. And we sit down and we have a conversation, usually through Zoom or Skype or through or live, because there is some physical, there's some vision that has to happen. There has to be, there's some tools that I share with them that they have to visually see how to utilize. And in the past, most of my clients that come to me, with women in particular, within the first 5 minutes of the discussion, trauma from their childhood or their younger years shows up. And usually it's a huge trauma. We know that 3 out of 5 women are molested or physically assaulted in this country, at least. And many times we weren't allowed, or they weren't allowed to talk about it, and their voice was silenced, or they were told they somehow weren't good enough or weren't believed. And so it's more trauma related, but my clients don't know that. They don't seem to realize that what they chose to shove down is creating havoc in their lives.
That's really interesting, especially in the climate we live in today, where, everywhere we turn now, women are actually starting to speak up after holding their tongue for so long. And I imagine it has been a cultural thing in the United States where, you don't talk about that. You don't share that information. And so children, I know when I was growing up, it was really driven into our heads that you're seen and not heard. And that, that even that message, even if you didn't have a big trauma, can do a lot of damage about just speaking up and being heard. So when you work with the people, and again, it can be either in person or via Zoom or Skype, or I imagine even on the telephone, but a visual medium would work best. So
yes,
when you work with people, is it a long, arduous process, or can you
it's
help
very
people quickly?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
It's very
Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. Some of the tools I have in my toolbox are EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. An Emotional Freedom Technique was designed by a man, Gary Craig, back in the 1980s, and he actually used it to relieve PTSD from Vietnam veterans, and it works very quickly and easily. Most of the time, when I have clients, I teach them how to tap. And I call it tap the crap out. So we tap out those negative emotions, and it's working with meridian points. And so you're actually telling the story of the pain or whatever it is that you're feeling, and it releases it. So, telling your story is important, but it doesn't relieve the anxiety or the negative energy behind the feeling. And so when you tell your story and you're tapping while telling the story, it releases the emotional trigger, the negative energy that's held in your body, which is phenomenal, because we know that negative energy held into our bodies can create disease, whether it be physical or emotional. And so there's a huge release. So the next time that they have what might have been an emotional trigger, which is maybe a scent or a sound or a vision, or something triggers an emotion that was negative, the next time they're in that situation, it doesn't feel bad. They can actually talk about what happened to them without breaking down or feeling like they're reliving the process or whatever happened to them, the situation. So that's one of the tools I use. And what's cool is that it's very self-empowering, because once you learn how to tap, you can do it any time. You don't need someone else to guide you through the process. So it's very self-empowering, and it relieves a lot. The other process I use is called Psych-K, and it was designed and developed by Robin Williams, who was a psychologist. And it uses a combination of kinesiology, which is muscle testing. And a lot of people think muscle testing is kind of woo-woo, but it's really not. It's the same principle used for lie detectors tests. So it is science-based. It uses a combination of kinesiology and something known as brain gym, which is where you balance the brain, and a form of self-hypnosis. And these things coordinated together help to put a new belief in, a new positive belief in the brain on the neurotransmitter, so that from now on you're going to start attracting everything to keep making that belief true. And this is why subconscious work is so very helpful. A really good example might be, and it doesn't have to have been a trauma. Let's say as a child you had a kid in the neighborhood that constantly called you a name, and you took that in and you believed it. And what it triggered was the belief of I'm not good enough. And I find that that's probably the number one misbelief or limiting belief many of us, particularly women, have. And so that's the first balance I would do. So we all have what's called an RAS, a reticulating activating center in our brain. And its sole purpose is that of a locator. And so what it does, every little neurotransmitter in the brain, which is a belief that we have, and that one little limiting belief that says I'm not good enough, the RAS is going out and finding people, places, and things to continue to make that belief true. So as soon as you get rid of that belief and you put a new belief in that says I am good, I am more than good enough, you're going to start your RAS is going to start finding those people, places, and things that's going to continue to make that belief stronger and truer. And it's amazing work.
So that's RAF. That's the reticular activator
system. RAS.
Oh, okay.
RAS. Reticulating activator system.
So a good example of that is not related is, for example, when I got a new car, I got a new Prius, all of a sudden I see Priuses all over. So it's something like that where you're like in tune to that, except in this way, you're actually, when you start to realize that you're good, you start to attract good things.
Yes. And it's funny because somebody had posted on Facebook today that I release negative people in my life, and I wrote, I don't even attract them anymore. So they're not even on my radar. It's like, so I have cleared enough in my on those neurotransmitters in my brain that there's so many good positive beliefs in my neurotransmitters that there's not a whole lot of negative going on in my life because I'm not attracting it. My RAS is continually looking for these things to keep making that true. And what's cool about the neurotransmitters is every time you experience something that makes that true, that belief more true, it gets stronger and stronger.
Oh, that's really an interesting point. So, do you get confused with people? What you do is obviously, I mean, you've got the credentials, the scientific credentials and master's degrees and everything. Do you get confused with energy workers or people who are doing different types of work to help people?
Yes, I do. I often get confused with massage therapists that do Reiki and healing touch. And it is a beautiful thing. After I had surgery, I had a massage therapist give me a healing touch session, and it really helped with the healing process. But it didn't change my mindset. I would have to go back. If I had something that was a continual problem, I would have to keep continuing to go back and do more. And what's really interesting is with the Psych-K process, I go through all areas of. There's a whole list of areas that I actually go through in self-development, and I go through any beliefs that might be programmed, and I muscle test my clients, and again, with conversations, I might even create a belief that I think is valuable for them to input. And so usually I don't spend more than 4 or 5 sessions with my clients, and there's a huge transformation. I almost have to put a warning sign on my website because because it's almost like, okay, if you're not ready for this, for example, if you're in a job that people are abusing you, or you're in a relationship that's not healthy, it's going to change. It's going to change. You're going to let go of it eventually because you have made the shift in that your brain. And it's just going to change. I know that when I did the work, I had some relationships that ended, and I did nothing to end them. They just decided that it wasn't a match, and it was like, I kind of felt like it wasn't, but it was okay. It was okay. I was good with it, but this. A lot of transformation. In fact, on my website, under one of my testimonials, I have a before and after picture of one of my clients, and you can see just physically the changes, and that doesn't even go into what she's done in her life since then.
Wow. So warning, warning,
warning.
You may transform.
And be ready for it, yeah.
So you've written, go ahead.
It's kind of like, when in Star Wars, when they put it in hyper speed and you go, whoa. Psych-K is, and how I work with clients is it's quick. It's total life transformation. Yeah.
So it's definitely an investment in yourself. You've written this book, Making More Than Lemonade Out of Lemons. Can you tell me a little bit more about your book and why you wrote it?
Okay, yeah, thank you. I wrote this book called Making More Than Lemonade Out of Lemons. Years ago, I had created I've always been one that has had somewhat of a Pollyanna attitude, and it's a positive attitude, and I know that because I've had it, it's brought all kinds of good things into my life. But years ago, I created a quote that said, I not only make lemonade out of lemons, I make lemon potpourri, lemon zest, and lemon meringue pie. And so originally I was going to name the book What's the Missing Piece, which was more about personal development and how we are the missing piece. That, we sometimes, so many times, put everybody first and then take care of ourselves last. And yet we can't give what we don't have. So we're the missing piece, and we need to do self-development, and we need to do personal development. We need to do this work on ourselves in order to create the best life and the best of our life in all areas. So, but what happened in the meantime was my youngest daughter was killed by a drunk driver, and I kind of put the book on the shelf for about 6 months. And then I was guided to rename it Making More Than Lemonade Out of Lemons. And I actually have a segment in there, and how the attitude that I have about making more than lemonade out of lemons has helped me through the grieving process. And the book consists of quite a few little stories, and they're inspirational stories and information. And at the end of each chapter, there is a journal prompt for writing. And in the printed book, there's actually spaces to write, and it would make a great holiday gift for a friend or family. But in the Kindle version, not only is there the journal prompt, but I have an audio journal prompt that I actually guide you through a meditative stream of consciousness writing, which connects us to a whole lot more.
That's wonderful. I like the idea that you have taken the fact that you can have a physical book where you can write, but the Kindle version, that is phenomenal. That you have that multimedia aspect, and that makes it a really powerful tool, because a lot of people have an audio recorder on their phone. They could listen to your audio prompt and use a voice recorder, or of course they can listen to your audio prompt and write in their own notebook. There's so many things that you can do with that, and the different stories. So can you share maybe one or two of the stories in your book?
Well, I can give you some titles.
Okay.
One of the titles is "Change Your Thoughts and You Change Your World," Norman Vincent Peale's quote. There's another one about gratitude 101. What's the mess in your message? One of my favorite topics here is, do you ever flatline your feelings to avoid the roller coaster of life?
That's powerful. I can raise
powerful.
I can raise my hand to that, because sometimes we just keep stuffing, and like sometimes I'll go, when was the last time you actually cried or released something? Because I don't cry as much as I probably should, because whenever I do cry, my tears are so potent that I can smell the ammonia. So I know that's a lot of pent up something. If I'm literally crying ammonia tears.
Well, and here's the thing. We live in a world of duality, and roses have thorns and thorns have roses. And in order to feel the bliss and the joy, we need to understand what the opposite of that is. And I know that's kind of harsh, but there was a time that I lived in a very flatline feeling world, and I missed out on the smell of a rose and the song of a bird. And today I enjoy those things because I allow what I'm feeling to come out. And again, I have the tools to work through them. Another one of I have a quote, and I wrote an article on, can anger be useful? Anger is really just fear, pain, hurt, or frustration, all dressed up in a power suit.
I think you're absolutely right. And a lot of times people, all of that stuff, like we said, it gets stuffed and then it comes out in anger because it's like you just can't take it anymore. And so that's how it gets expressed. So do you work with groups and individuals or just individuals?
I do have, I have in the past done some workshops for groups, and I plan on working on that, doing some more in the future. And in fact, I do have a global mission. Since my daughter passed away, I've realized that I am working with clients, but I also have a global message that needs to get out that's very, very important. It's living totally present gifts us with a life of no regrets. And 20 years ago, 20 years or more years ago, Eckhart totally came out with the power of now, and many of us embraced it. But with the invention of the smartphone and this word we call multitasking, we've kind of lost the ability to be present with each other. And one of the things that I learned in my relationship with my daughter is when she passed away, I looked at our relationship and it was very complete. And I had no regrets. And it was a huge gift to me. And the message I got from her was, Mom, we need to be more present with each other. This is how we're going to heal, is being there for each other. That we put our cell phones down when we're at the table, when we're at a meal with each other, when we're talking to each other, we listen and we don't think about the next thing we're going to say or do. When we're driving, we're being present. And so I'm creating an entire curriculum around living totally present gifts us with a life of no regrets. And I'm going to actually eventually be certifying, because I can't get this message out by myself. I'm going to actually be, after I create the program, I'm going to be creating a certification program so that others can share the message.
Wow, Betsy, that is a phenomenal thing. Living Totally Present happens to also be the name of your website, livingtotallypresent.com. So if somebody wants to get in contact with you, how would you suggest they go about it?
Well, they can go on the livingtotallypresent.com site. I also have a site, betsyrosam.com, and both of those have my contact information. It has my email address, and I have on both sites. I have some free giveaways. I have on the Betsy Rosam site. I have a free report on 7 things that might be holding you back, plus a video on how to do meridian tapping and a video on how to muscle test yourself. And then on the Living Totally Present website, I have a present, PRESENT. It's a worksheet that shows you some tips on how to be present, totally present, and it also includes the video of how to meridian tap and also how to muscle test yourself. So you have some options there. Eventually, I'm going to have one website. I'm in the process of getting that taken care of. My web guy, my web designer, my web helper guy, he had to move. Hurricane Irma caused an issue for him, so I'm waiting for him to get settled before I make that transition.
Yes, sometimes hurricanes make us have transitions that we're not quite ready for. And everyone, that is quite some impressive gifts that Betsy has. And her name is spelled BetsyRosam.com. And again, the learning how to tap, how powerful is that? Learning how to do muscle testing is extremely powerful. And just recognizing that, maybe in the world today, it is a lot harder to be in the present. And it is time to put the cell phone down and think about how you can connect with people, real people. Don't become the people who sit across from one another at a restaurant and their face is buried in the cell phone. And sometimes they're even texting to one another when they could be talking. Have you ever seen people?
I was guilty of it. I was guilty of it. Hello.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, I've done it with my son where I'll text him and I'm going, oh my God, we're 2 feet away from one another in the table, and yet we're texting. And it is so interesting to me because humans need contact, real physical, like hold my hand, hug me, touch me. There's so much power in that, and yet we get addicted to a device as if it's part of us, and it's not.
And it's also, I don't know that parents realize it, but brain development of their child is the interaction of human to human is extremely important in the brain development of a child. And so many children are growing up with TV and tablets and cell phones being their educator, their nurturer, and I have no idea what that's going to do to our society, but they need to be aware that human interaction is extremely important to brain development in the first 7 years of their life. Actually, the first 5 years of their life is when their brain gets wired for all different, for all the things that we do. And so it's really, really important. Also, you can also get in touch with me through Facebook. I have a Motivating Mondays Facebook Live that is open to the public, and it's at noon Eastern Standard Time. So you're welcome to check that out as well.
Wow. Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest. Betsy is online and connected. And the book, Making More Than Lemonade Out of Lemons, you can get it on Kindle, you can get it on Amazon, and I bet at some point you'll be able to go right to Betsy's website and be able to link up and get that. And then also, is your other book, 30 Days to Family Peace and Harmony, still available?
It is available through my website. I have to get it through Amazon. I self-published that book, and I do have a way to get it to clients.
Great. That's very attractive to me, because when you think about family peace and harmony, all of us want that, not only for ourselves, but for our families. So, Betsy, is there anything that I forgot to ask you that you'd like to tell our audience?
Let's see. Well, I did want to talk about working with clients as far as so many times they look at the price and they think it's overwhelming, but yet if it's 4 sessions and they could do talk therapy with a co-payment for $30 a week for years and not get the results that you get in 4 sessions with me. This is powerful stuff. And an investment in ourselves is so valuable and worthwhile.
I think that's really important, that in today, we need to start taking care of ourselves first and quit paying $5 for a cup of coffee when we could make that investment into actually changing ourselves for the better, so that we can cope with our lives, because everything's moving so fast, and it is very difficult. And the techniques that you're talking about, Betsy, are it's not our mother's therapy, I guess. Like you said, talk therapy. You can sit there and the counselor does exactly that. They go, how does that make you feel?
I had a therapist fall asleep on me one time.
I had a therapist who used to play on her computer and take care of her personal business, and it wasn't about me at all. And
No.
And so I remember sitting there going, why am I wasting my time with this person when I could probably get the same benefit if I just had a really good friend who listened to me talk?
Yeah.
So Betsy, I appreciate all the time you took with me today. And again, Making More Than Lemonade Out of Lemons is available on Kindle and Amazon. And you can go to betsyrosam.com and livingtotallypresent.com. Thank you so much, Betsy.
Thank you. Have a wonderful, blessed day.
This is Tami Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to Women Innovators with Tami Patzer. To learn more, please go to womeninnovatorsradio.com. And please do subscribe and share to spread the big messages and big missions to change the world.